We're talking CD, the MCD600 specifically. This one's from McIntosh. It's a high-end player, and so is the price, £8,000. That's how much it's going to cost you. It's a big box. You're going to need shelf space for this, guys. The box itself is quite boxy. What more can I say? It's a box. It looks boxy. And it's lacking in any sort of Italian styling, so you get none of that carved from driftwood, valves scattered Dalek-like all over, curves, none of that. This is a box. That said, there is an element of styling and character about the look. So if you look at the front fascia, it has that sort of 70s thing going on, that typical McIntosh retro. You have, for example, you have those little ski slope buttons on the front, which are very nice. Being McIntosh, it glows green, but then everything in McIntosh glows green. I'm sure if you went to the HQ of McIntosh, their coffee would glow green. I'm reliably informed that their CEO, whisper it quietly, glows green. Everything does, but that's fine. Again, personality, there's a recognizability about the product line. It's a good thing. The CD player itself comes with a transport and a DAC inside the same chassis. So this is an integrated design. And talking about the transport, it's new. It hasn't been borrowed from a computer, hasn't been borrowed from another CD player. Apparently, it's brand new, which is great in this day and age. You know, CD is supposed to be dead, isn't it? And Macintosh are making their own transport for their own CD player, high-end, £8,000. Whoa! So there's a lot of kudos. That I love CD. I'm a big vinyl fan, as you can tell, but I also like CD. I like the physicality of music. I'm all for it. And I think CD has a future. Obviously, Macintosh does too. So that's a good thing. What I would also like to add about the transport is two things. Firstly, it's a twin laser system, which means it can play SACD as well as CDs. And secondly, and this is a bit of a thing with me, it plays DVDs. Now, this is wonderful. Wonderful. Not many do, incidentally. Not to my experience, anyway. I have archives of digital music, and I put them on to DVD. And what that means is normally, if I want to access any of that and play it on my hi-fi, I have to grab the DVD, attach it, or insert it rather, into an external computer drive, plug that into my laptop, transfer it to my laptop, take it from my laptop back to an SD card, take out the SD card, find my digital player, Astle and Kern or whatever it might be, attach that to my hi-fi, collapse in a chair, and finally listen to the music. It's a lot of effort. Not now. All I have to do is take the actual DVD disc, put that in my McIntosh MCD600 player, done. That's controlled, incidentally, via a very nice external remote. It's a very long, thin, it's a very sort of TV-like, but it's a very slim, well-made external remote that Macintosh give to you in this package. So, very nice indeed. In terms of the performance, well, the DAC part, because you can attach external players to the DAC, is very good. It's quite an open sound. Soundstage, this is the soundstage is, for those who are not too sure, it's basically the area the music comes to you from. Okay, so a soundstage can be quite narrow, quite compressed, or broad and expansive. That's what the DAC is. It gives you this broad, expansive, wide soundstage. It's quite impressive. There is a slight digital sheen coming from this, but I think partly that's to do with the DAC being in the CD player, to be absolutely honest. You can't really get away from that. So there's an element of that sheen. It's not bright by any means, I'm not saying that, and it's not edgy or anything negative. There's no metallicness, none of that. But there is just, if I'm being picky, and at £8,000 I can be picky, surely, yeah? There's just a slight sheen. Nothing serious, as I say. The CD player, as a whole, can be played in many ways. When I say played, it can be attached to your hi-fi in different ways. In fixed mode, which is the normal way of attaching a CD player to your amplifier. When I say fixed, I mean the amplifier looks after the volume. Okay, so in the fixed mode, you can connect your CD player, this particular McIntosh, in both balanced and single-ended modes. So single-ended is your typical RCA plugs. So attaching it using the RCA, excellent. It's a great CD player. Just as a basic CD player, very happy with it. Again, lots of space, lots of instrumental separation. And again, by that I mean you have a noticeable gap in between each and every instrument. Guitar, piano, drums, there's a little gap. And that means you can almost sort of hear the edges of each instrument. That allows each instrument to give you more detail, more realism, I suppose. So very happy with that. No typical CD negatives from that particular area. No brightness, no edge, no metallicness, none of that. Very nice. The other fixed connection, as I say, is balanced. So using a balanced cable to obviously a balanced connection on your amp. The tonal balance is improved using the balanced cable, pardon the pun. So what I mean by that is there's more bass. So bass is lifted. It has a more even sort of feel in the mix using a balanced connection. This is highlighted when I listened to one particular rock track and the bass guitar was plucked. And normally, when the bass string is plucked, you would hear in a single-ended mode, that is when I say normally, you would hear a dropping off a cliff of the reverb. So you'd hear dum, and then the reverb would die, the music would carry on. With the balance connection, the reverb continued, but it continued underneath the music. So you had this dum, and it continued. The music carried on, but the bass plucked string, I could still hear that. I could still hear that just underneath. I could still make it out, which was a lovely thing. So it gave that bass power that was just, it was very sort of Moorish. It was like listening to the balance connection. It was like eating lots of ice cream. It was just like, oh, this is wonderful. So that's the balance connection. Now the other way of connecting the CD player to your amp is in a variable way, variable connections. Now when I say variable, I mean that the CD player this time handles the volume. Why would you want to do that? Well, it means that the CD player can be a preamp. The CD player basically controls the volume. It's a preamp, which means you can connect it directly to a power amp. You can get rid of the preamp. Now I have a separate preamp and a separate power amp, so that's fine for me. It might not be relevant if you've got to integrate it, or not so much anyway. I'm sure we can talk about that in the comments below, but generally speaking. So the preamp section in my particular hi-fi chain, I could get rid of that. It was out, which meant that the signal was purer. It had less distance to go. It had less stuff to go through. And when a signal, any hi-fi signal goes through hi-fi equipment, it picks up noise, masking, veiling noise. There's a certain amount of degradation. It happens. So the less kit your signal goes through, the purer it is, or the better chance it has of remaining pure. So if you connect your CD player straight to your power amp, it has a shorter path, a quicker direction into your ears. That shorter path should give you better music, and it did. I was able to test the single-ended mode in variable mode. This is getting complicated, isn't it? But stick with me. So what I heard was amazing. It was far better than the fixed modes. So variable, single-ended, so this is a pair of RCAs straight to my power amp, okay? That had a very rich, very mature, full suite of frequency sounds. It sounded quite beautiful. Everything else sounded quite weedy and thin compared. So bass had this, but everything sounded focused too. So while bass had a fuller sound, it sounded very organic. It sounded tonally real. It had great precision. There was a more effective use of silences. The little pauses and silences seemed to have a more immediate and exciting effect. It was more interesting, put it that way. Your ears were like trying to find little tiny elements, tiny details. You were being pulled and pushed from one side to the other. It was just interesting, and I love that. Now, the final mode, in variable mode, would have been connecting it to a balance connection. I couldn't do that. My power amp doesn't have balance connection, so I couldn't do that. So that was a shame. If you have this machine and you are able to connect it in a balanced way, in variable mode, let me know. I'd love to know what it sounds like, because I couldn't do that. Broadly speaking then, the actual CD player is excellent. Lots of features, lots of variations. There's a whole host of options. Sounds great. I love it. If you want to know more, if I haven't given you the detail in this review that you're looking for, if it's only whetted your appetite, if you want more techie info, if you want more structured sound testing, high-res images, I can give you that. I've done it already. It's on my site waiting for you. Down below there's a link. Click on the link. It'll take you to the site. All of that very formal review, it's done. It's there. So by all means read that. For now, I'd love to hear your comments. If you have the machine itself, let me know if you like it or hate it. You know, if you disagree with me. Do you use any other McIntosh CD players? Again, I'd love to know your comments about McIntosh CD players per se. Keep it clean, keep it polite, no swearing please, this is a family channel, but I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, bye bye bye.